Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Ashmit Kumar and here are the headlines we're tracking this evening. Sensex and Nifty consolidate after hitting record highs in early trade. Broader markets outperform. Stocks across the world are largely stable after the US Fed held interest rates steady and signaled one rate cut in 2024. Insurance regulator releases final rules on payout to policyholders if they surrender early. Life insurers likely to pay 78% of the total premium received as surrender value. Insurance stocks gain as the final surrender value is lower than what the markets had factored in. With just about a month to go, budget preparations begin at the Finance Ministry. Industry body CII calls for a 25% hike in government capex, simplification of taxes, a three-tier GST structure, among several other demands. The first GST Council meeting under the new NDA government will be held on the 22nd of June. Sources say the Fitment Committee will study Oil Ministry's proposal to bring aviation fuel and natural gas under the GST regime ahead of the Council meeting. 42 Indian nationals are among the 49 people killed in a residential building blaze in Kuwait City. 24 people who died are from Kerala and 5 are from Tamil Nadu. A DNA test is being conducted to identify the victims as many bodies are charred beyond recognition. Amidst widespread protests, the National Testing Agency withdraws the grace marks awarded to more than 1,500 students in the NEET examinations for admission at medical colleges. NTA tells the Supreme Court it will conduct a retest for the affected students on the 23rd of June. Setback for Delhi, reeling under a water crisis. Himachal Pradesh government tells the Supreme Court it does not have any surplus water and an earlier statement was misconstrued. Apex Court tells the Delhi government to approach the Upper Yamuna River Board. This is India's decade, says the chairman of Standard Chartered, Jose Vinyal. The global banker cum policymaker says India is attractive because of its scale, macro stability and policies like the production-linked incentive scheme. More than 37,200 Palestinians have been killed after 250 days of Israel's war in Gaza. Ceasefire talks hit a hurdle. United States claims changes proposed by the Hamas to the truce deal is not workable. Hamas claims it has shown full positivity to clinch this deal. World leaders gather in Italy for the G7 summit with the wars in Ukraine and Gaza on top of the agenda. Prime Minister Modi is scheduled to leave later this evening in what will be his first foreign visit of the third term. Well, let's begin by diving in straight to the day's trading action. Market closed today at record highs amidst broad-based gains. The Sensex Nifty gained 0.25%, while mid-caps continue to outperform. That index closed nearly 1% higher, hitting new peaks for the fourth straight session. Nifty Bank, however, underperformed. And well, here's the big trigger that the markets had been watching for. The US Federal Reserve has stuck to expectations, keeping key interest rates unchanged. The central bank also penciled in just one rate cut before the end of the year. Now, this is sharply down from the 3 rate cuts it had forecast after its meeting in March this year. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said that the Fed does not have the confidence yet to start lowering interest rates.
We've stated that we do not expect it will be appropriate to reduce the target range for the federal funds rate until we have gained greater confidence that inflation is moving sustainably toward 2%. So far this year, the data have not given us that greater confidence. The most recent inflation readings have been more favorable than earlier in the year, however, and there has been modest further progress toward our inflation objective. We'll need to see more good data to bolster our confidence that inflation is moving sustainably toward 2%.
Well, back home, sugar stock were on a high today after sugar prices gained on expectations of a hike in minimum sale price. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the revision is likely to apply from the next sugar season, which starts from October of this year. The industry has been advocating for the MSP of sugar to be set between 40 to 41 rupees per kg. Well, here's a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. The first GST Council meeting under the new NDA government will be held on the 22nd of June. We learned from sources that the Fitment Committee will study Oil Ministry's proposal to bring aviation fuel and natural gas under the GST framework ahead of the Council meeting. Timsy Jaipuria is joining us now with more details. Timsy.
Well, that's right. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the GST Council nominated Fitment Committee is likely to meet ahead of the Council, which is scheduled to meet on June 22nd. The Fitment panel could consider items such as studying the proposal of Oil Ministry to bring ATF under GST at 5% and to bring natural gas either at 12% or 18%. Apart from this, Fitment Committee could also come up with clarity on claiming ITC on several sectors where industry has been facing issues. It could also lay down proposal on tax applicability on metal and steel scrap. The committee could also consider proposal to correct inverted duty structure on as many as 14 items, including textile, leather, pharma, a proposal sent by DPIIT. On the other hand, the council could meet with an agenda item including clarity of norms on ITC on telecom services, spectrum charges. Further discussion could be laid on the measures for ease of doing business that is required, especially for global companies with branch office in India and head office abroad. Council could also clarify for foreign airlines and shipping lines that have come under DGI scanner, and that clarification is much needed. Council is also likely to approve timeline for pan-India rollout of mandatory biometric Aadhaar-based authentication of GST taxpayers. A pilot project has also been initiated already, and that has been a success. Coming up with a roadmap for further simplification of rules, enhancing compliance could be also on Council's agenda, and we are given to understand that Council could give fresh guidelines and timeline to the GOM on correction of inverted duty structure and the need to come up with a proposal on rate rationalization, which is much warranted. Remember that GOM is under the chairmanship of UPFM Suresh Khanna. Industry is also likely to push for a review of GST on online gaming, but Council is likely to have reservation and continue with the ongoing policy. So let's see what happens finally when the Council meets on June 22nd.
Right, Timsy, thanks a lot for that. Now, the insurance regulator has announced new surrender value norms for life insurance policies. As per calculations, life insurers would be paying 78% of total premium received as surrender value to policyholders. This is higher than the existing rate. However, life insurance were anticipating a higher payout value. Yash Jain joining us now. Yash, how is the sector reacting to these developments?
Well, Ashmit, finally, after about 6 long months of negotiations between the industry and the regulator, the final surrender value framework is out, and it is certainly not in favor of the life insurance sector. The regulator has, maintained its stance of giving higher surrender value to policyholders. The regulator has kept the surrender value to be paid to policyholders at elevated levels. This entire issue around surrender value started from December 2023 when the first draft on surrender value was released by the regulator. That draft suggested a total surrender value which came to about 83%, which means on a 10,000 rupees premium paid annually, if the policy surrendered in the second year, about 8,300 rupees will have to be returned to policyholders as surrender value. Of course, this met with a lot of resistance from the life insurance industry. Presentations were made, and then the regulator came out and said that we'll fix the guaranteed surrender value much lower at just about 30%. The industry took a lot of relief out of it, but right after that, the regulator started discussions on increasing the special surrender value, which would eventually take the total surrender value higher. Here, very recently, just about 2 weeks ago, the regulator wrote to all life insurance companies suggesting the mechanism in which special surrender value should be increased, and that again took the special surrender value to the levels of about 82%. Of course, the same thing was repeated. A lot of resistance from the industry. In fact, a lot of exemptions and relaxations were sought by the industry. industry, but the regulator clearly hasn't budged except for giving that one little exemption of just about 50 basis points of comfort in the GSEC yield, additionally over the GSEC yield of 7%, which comes handy in calculation of special surrender value. As per the new regulations, the final regulations, the special surrender value is kept at 78%, which means if a policyholder pays 10,000 rupees in premium annually, second year the policy is surrendered, then the life insurance company will have to return about 7,200 crore rupees, 7,823 crore rupees as surrender value, which is 78%, much higher. This means higher expenses for life insurance companies and negative for their margins. Though the life insurance stocks surged in today's trade because the overhang of this constant negotiation between the regulator and the industry is out of the way, and now the industry can focus on business from here on and strategies to mitigate the negative impact of higher surrender value.
Right, Yash, thanks a lot for that input. Now, moving ahead, at least 42 Indian nationals are among the 49 people who lost their lives after a fire broke out in an apartment building near Kuwait City early last morning. The fire reportedly broke out in a kitchen of one of the lower floors on the building in Mangaf, which is located to the south of Kuwait City. Local media, meanwhile, reported that at least 200 people were staying in the 6-story building. More than 9 lakh Indians are currently working in Kuwait. In fact, Indians account for 30% of the overall workforce in Kuwait. Minister of State of External Affairs, Keerthivardan Singh, is currently in Kuwait to facilitate the repatriation of mortal remains of the deceased. Parishat Luthra is joining us now. Parishat, a horrific incident this. What is the engagement that the MEA is looking at in response to this crisis situation in Kuwait City?
Well, this is indeed a very sad piece of news. 49 people were killed in that blaze in that building in Kuwait, and 42 of them are Indian nationals, largely from the state of Kerala. Now, one of the reasons why we saw so many people dying was because this was an overcrowded building. In fact, the Kuwait government has launched an investigation into overcrowding of migrants in some pockets of the city. They have also suspended officials who had given clearances to this particular building, and they're looking into violations, if any. So there is a thorough investigation which the Kuwaitis say they have launched into this incident of fire. The MOS External Affairs, Keerthivardan Singh, has been dispatched to Kuwait to meet officials there. He's meeting his counterpart, requesting him for early repatriation of mortal remains and also allowing the people injured to be transferred back to India at the earliest. So the Indian government taking up this matter at the highest level. The Prime Minister also, after returning from Andhra Pradesh and Odisha last evening, held a review meeting with officials such as the Foreign Secretary. The External Affairs Minister was also present in that meeting, and they showed him exactly where this fire took place, what was the reason of the fire as well. Now, while the Prime Minister has condoled the incident and announced 2 lakh rupees as the compensation for the next of kin, the Kerala government has announced a compensation of at least 5 lakh rupees for those families who have lost their loved ones in this tragedy. There are businessmen from Kerala who have also announced compensation in the range of 3 to 5 lakhs. So we'll have to really wait and see what happens, what kind of investigation takes place. But this does put a lot of focus into the plight of Indians working in Gulf countries, many of them living in such overcrowded buildings. And this raises some questions for the Kuwaiti authorities and Indian officials as well.
Right, Parishat, thanks a lot for that. Now, more international headlines. Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry has claimed that more than 37,200 Palestinians have been killed since the start of the war. Meanwhile, the ceasefire talks have hit a hurdle. United States is claiming that changes proposed by Hamas to the truce deal are not workable. On the other hand, Hamas claims it has shown full positivity to clinch a deal. At least 9 people have been killed and more than 24 injured after a Russian missile strike on Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky's hometown. As per the Ukrainian military, the attack on Kryvyi is the deadliest in weeks, and it has damaged an administrative building and an apartment block. Leaders of the world's largest economies have started arriving in Italy's Puglia region for the G7 annual summit. From geopolitical tensions on the back of 2 ongoing wars to climate change to Africa, The three-day forum promises to be a busy affair. Leaders will be hoping to come to an agreement to extend an additional $50 million in funding to Ukraine, which could be guaranteed by Russian assets frozen by EU nations and the USA. The meeting also comes days after French President Macron and German Chancellor Scholz suffered a humiliating defeat in the EU parliamentary elections at the hands of the ultra-right-wing parties. Narendra Modi would be flying out to Italy for the summit this evening. This would be his first foreign trip after taking charge as Prime Minister for the third time. A bilateral meeting with the Italian Prime Minister Meloni is on the cards as well. An Argentinian president will also be attending the G7 summit at a time when massive protests have rocked his country. Violent protests erupted in the capital city of Buenos Aires over the president's contentious bill that seeks to privatize some state entities and dilute labor rights. Protesters clashed with the police, who fired water cannons and tear gassed them to stop them. The Senate passed the bill in an all-night voting marathon. And well, back home, Union Minister Rajnath Singh has assumed charge as the Defence Minister at the South Block today. This will be Rajnath Singh's second consecutive term as the Defence Minister.
यानी हम चाहते हैं कि सशक्त भारत का निर्माण हो, आत्मनिर्भर भारत का निर्माण हो, ये हमारा उद्देश्य है। और साथ ही साथ रक्षा उत्पाद में हम आत्मनिर्भर बने, ये सबसे बड़ा उद्देश्य हमारा है। और इस दिशा में एक मंजिल हम लोगों ने तय की है और आप सब लोगों को मालूम है कि 21,000 करोड़ से अधिक का हम लोगों ने एक्सपोर्ट किया है, जो कि एक हिस्टोरिकल ये अचीवमेंट है। और मेरा तो टारगेट ये है कि इसको हम कम से कम 5 साल समाप्त होते होते 50,000 करोड़ से ऊपर ले जाएं।
Well, meanwhile, BJP MP from Telangana, G. Krishna Reddy, also took charge as the Union Minister for Coal and Mines. Reddy has succeeded party colleague Prahlad Joshi, who will now be handling the Consumer Affairs and Renewable Energy portfolio. Kishan Reddy served as Tourism Minister in the previous government. And Telugu Desam's party's Ram Mohan Naidu took charge of the Civil Aviation Ministry today. He is the youngest minister in this new government and the TDP's only cabinet minister. Remember, TDP's Ashok Gajapati Raju served as the Civil Aviation Minister in the first Modi government for 4 years before Chandrababu Naidu quit the NDA in March of 2018.
Digi Yatra scheme, and it has improved the convenience and it has improved the efficiency with which a person can come to the airport and board the aircraft also. So we want to expand it to all the airports in the country, and we want to make it at a war footing level. Right from the time of COVID, when the air travel has taken a huge hit, there have been some fluctuations in the air prices, and it hasn't been stable since then. And not just as a minister, I have been observing this as a passenger also for the last 4 years, and definitely that is also a cause of concern.
Well, with the NDA 3.0 government getting down to business, the preparations for the union budget for FY25 has begun as well. Minister Nirmala Sitharaman took charge of the Finance Ministry yesterday and held a meeting with senior officials. The FM directed officials to initiate the budget preparation process, emphasizing the need for meticulous planning. The union budget is likely to be tabled in Parliament by the third week of July. And well, as preparations for the union budget begin, industry body CII has released a wish list. A 25% hike in the government's capex is the top demand. Shivani Bajaj is joining us now with more on what's on the watch list, what's on the request list coming in from India Inc. Shivani.
CII has come out with its key recommendations from the new government. Amid the biggest asks by the industry body CII is a 25% hike in India's capex to drive growth and global competitiveness. CII has also urged the government to simplify direct taxes and rationalize tedious provisions by reducing rates and creating a small negative list. CII has also called for a consistency in capital gains tax rates and holding periods for different financial instruments. Sanjeev Puri, who took charge as the new CII chairman here in Delhi today, emphasized the need for a 3-rate GST structure, inclusion of petroleum products, electricity and real estate under the GST regime, and a 3-tiered import duty structure also. He also highlighted the importance of operationalizing the rupees 1 lakh crore R&D fund announced in the interim budget, evolving a regulatory framework for the artificial intelligence and updating the 2000 2007 design policy. On the healthcare front, CII seeks a roadmap to increase public expenditure to 3% of GDP. The industry body has also sought a roadmap to increase public expenditure on education to 6% of GDP. CII has asked the new government to set up a task force including the NEET, the Ministry of Education, the state governments and industry for tracking NEP implementation state-wise.
We are strongly advocating is that from where it is for last year, another 25% increase in capex. It's sitting at about 16.8% in the interim budget, but we believe 25% will provide the good boost to the economy. So we are suggesting rationalization of TDS provisions by reducing the number of rates and having a small negative list, and also to rationalize capital gains.
Well, the global chairman of Standard Chartered believes that this is the decade that belongs to India. Jose Vinyal spoke exclusively to CNBC-TV18's Lata Venkatesh. He said that India is attractive because of its scale, macro stability, and policies like production-linked incentive scheme. Take a look.
India remains a very attractive destination, and this is a theme that will continue because the underlying factors which are leading to that remain. So I think this is more of a structural trend. And India has something which is very important, which is scale. India has a very large internal market, in addition to other very important attractive features. Is a country with very strong fundamentals, very important also.
Well, with that, it's time now for a short break. But coming up, amidst widespread protests, the National Testing Agency withdraws the grace marks awarded to more than 1,500 students in the NEET examinations for admission at medical colleges. Details when we come back. Welcome back. Here's the big national story this evening. The National Testing Agency has withdrawn the grace marks awarded to more than 1,500 students in the NEET examinations for admission at medical colleges. The agency has told the Supreme Court that it will also conduct a retest for the affected students on the 23rd of June. Several petitions have also been submitted to High Courts and the Supreme Court, raising concerns on paper leakages, grace marks, and significantly higher marks. However, these pleas will be heard by the Supreme Court in the month of July. Education Minister, meanwhile, Dharmendra Pradhan, rejected the allegations and said that there was no evidence of a paper leak.
देखिए, एक तो मैं आपको स्पष्ट करूं, देयर इज नो करप्शन। सरकार उसकी सामना करने के लिए, उसको संतुष्टि के साथ बच्चों को उत्तर देने के लिए बहुत प्रामाणिकता के साथ खड़ा है। स्पेसिफिक घटना जो आए हैं उसको सरकार गंभीरता से लिया है।
720 वालों को फिर भी एम्स दिल्ली नहीं मिलेगा, फिर भी अच्छा कॉलेज मिल जाएगा। पर हमें तो कॉलेज मिलना भी बहुत मुश्किल है। 640 वाले को, 650 वाले को, 620 वाले को, 640 वाले को।
एक साल के अंदर इतना इन्फ्लेशन हो ही नहीं सकता। जैसे मेरे मार्क्स आए हैं 670 में मेरी रैंक एक्सपेक्टेड थी पिछले साल के ट्रेंड्स को देख के 3000 के अराउंड, लेकिन इस बार आई है 15,000 रैंक, जो इतनी हाई कभी एक्सपेक्टेड ही नहीं थी। किसी ने सोची नहीं थी कि 5 टाइम्स इन्फ्लेशन हो जाएगा। हाँ, पेपर लीक ऑब्वियस सी बात है हुआ था। पहली बात तो ये कि एनटीए ने जब विंडो क्लोज हो गई थी एडमिशन की विंडो क्लोज हो गई थी, तो 2 दिन के लिए दोबारा ओपन हुई थी और कहते हैं एक ही सेंटर से 7-8 बच्चे टॉपर निकल रहे हैं। ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है?
जब उनको री एग्ज़ाम लेना ही था तो उन्होंने ग्रेस मार्क्स क्यों दिए? और ग्रेस मार्क्स दिए भी तो आपने उनको पब्लिश क्यों नहीं करा? आपने उनको ब्राउशर में अपने क्यों नहीं लिखा कि हम ग्रेस मार्क्स देंगे अगर टाइम का लॉस होता है? तो इतना सवाल करने के बाद आप आज आके बोलते हो कि हम दोबारा रीटेस्ट देंगे। इससे क्या साबित होता है एनटीए के द्वारा कि एनटीए टेस्टिंग एजेंसी है कि एक स्कैम एजेंसी है जो बच्चों के साथ इसका स्कैम कर रही है।
Well, moving ahead, American multinational Advanced Micro Devices, a leader in the semiconductor space, is upbeat on growth in India. AMD's India head Jaya Jagdish spoke to Parikshit Luthra on the company's growth blueprint. Take a look.
So AMD India is pretty central to overall AMD, both in terms of R&D and also in terms of business. I mean, it is considered a mega region for business, and there's a lot of focus on India. And the R&D center also is primarily a lot of growth has happened in the last few years, where we've added last 4 years, we've kind of tripled our headcount, and we are now today about 7,000 plus engineers working pretty much on every product line of AMD, making significant contributions, and we are slated to grow more, both in terms of expanding our business in India on the diverse portfolio that of products that AMD offers, and also on the R&D front, where we will continue to work on the most important products for AMD.
Right. I would like to ask you about increasing your footprint in India. You had spoken about the hiring that you've done in the last few years, but is there a hiring plan for the next 5 years?
Yes, the part of the announcement of the investment was to add about 3,000 engineers to our workforce over the next 5 years. And we will be hiring across various disciplines, which is silicon design, software, FPGAs. Of course, AI is a very important priority for us. So our hiring will continue on all of these segments and will continue to expand our, I mean, it's not just the headcount, it's about the skill sets and the difference the teams make in the overall product, in the design of our product. I think that also has significantly been growing year on year and will continue to grow as we expand.
Right. Now, the government in the recent past has made significant moves in chip fabrication. How does AMD envision the evolution of semiconductor manufacturing and design in India? And what role is AMD looking to play? How do you see the overall semiconductor ecosystem in India currently? And how could it be better, Jaya?
So it's honestly, a lot of growth has happened in the semiconductor. A lot of people are now becoming more and more aware of the importance of the semiconductor industry. I think COVID taught us a lot. I mean, that's when a lot of these supply chain issues and disruptions happened, which kind of made the world realize the importance of semiconductors. And India, too, is now, of course, the design has been in India for more than 3 decades, and we have a strong foothold on that. Manufacturing is something that is getting started now. There are, worldwide, there are many countries that want to achieve self-reliance in semiconductor manufacturing. And India, too, is progressing towards that. So it's truly a welcome initiative. But again, it's not just the manufacturing that needs to happen. There is a whole ecosystem around it. There is design and there's packaging in between design and manufacturing. And of course, manufacturing. All of these have to be strengthened if we want to achieve self-reliance in manufacturing. So AMD is a fabless company, and there's no immediate plan for us to invest in a fab. And we continue to strengthen the ecosystem with our design. Over the last 20 years, with the complexity of our designs and the skilling that's needed from our engineers, that's what we have infused a lot of great skills into this ecosystem. And that's where I see a lot of growth happening in India, along with the whole ecosystem of packaging and manufacturing. So it's truly a welcome.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. More news and updates continue right here on CNBC TV 18.